nh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well. for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area.
I guess first we'll do a quick roll call.
Peter Lennon here.
Mark Layden.
Rob Corson.
And Chris Weeks is here. Looks like Julie's coming in. Julie, we just took our roll, so. Yes, Julie is here. We don't really have any other meetings or minutes to approve or anything like that. Do we have a minute taker for this meeting?
I took the last one. Just
That's right. Rob, do you feel like
Yep.
taking minutes? Okay, thank you. In the meeting, the one item I have on the agenda, I know Peter's got a whole list of, a litany of things.
Yeah, well, most of that was boilerplate because I didn't know what else we were doing, so I just left it out there.
But the one thing I wanted to do tonight is just to go through this, to finish off our recommendations on what LaValle Brensinger presented to us and give that back to the town so that they can schedule their public meeting in April at some point. So for the rest of the time, I just want to engage in some discussion, go through, I'd like to edit this thing on the fly so when we're done with it tonight that we can just submit it. And with that, I would say, I'll open it up for comments. Does everybody have a chance to read it? We've got plenty of hard copies if you do.
I did, yeah.
Anybody want to start on edits?
You just want me to explain how we got just there? Or
You can if you like,
Well,
yeah.
Chris put out a rough draft, and I took everything in the rough draft and put it in the letter with a couple of exceptions. The first exception is that I added the two options that we talked about in addition to the first three options. So the hybrid option, if you will, as well as the 30-32 court suite. So those are there, and they're explained a little bit because we've kind of thought of them, and there's no other detail for LaValle Brensinger to go on. And then at the end of the rough draft before, there was a whole list of stuff, and I reduced that to like 2 or 3 or 4 bullets max. So this is kind of, it's all in there of things that we've talked about, and nobody really objected to, as long as we were gonna, at a minimum, make sure that LaValle Brensinger's first three options were carried forward for public comment. So it's the classic legislative compromise of everything's in there.
Ably assisted by town planner Dave Sharp.
Can I, do you want us to jump
Yeah,
in?
start chiming.
So
Why-
I don't have any, I just have a quick formatting question, I guess, Peter. You have
Yeah.
number 1, community input, number 2, presentation material. Oh wait, I think I just answered it. So you have 2, then you have the letter A, then 1. Just trying to understand, then you went down to B, C, D. It's all because it's under the
yeah.
number 2.
Yep.
So is that why I'm just trying to follow your outline?
Yeah, yes.
So 2A, and then it goes
It's
to
2A,
2B.
and it's 2A1,
Okay,
2A2,
okay.
and then there's 2B,
CD,
Got it.
C, D, E, F, G.
Okay. It may just help to indent if you want to indent,
Yeah, I'll try to do.
one, just so that it shows that it's, just to be very clear that it's
Right.
under 2A. Option 1 and 2 are under 2A. That's what, I get it now, okay.
And then in G, there's a 1 and a 2.
Okay.
yep.
It's not letting me indent the,
I had a bear trying to see
oh, there it
this.
goes, okay, I got it. So, yeah, so we'll format that to indent. All right, so on item 1, community input, I think that's fine as is. Anybody have any thoughts on item 1?
So just for my own clarity on the substation discussion, their summary of that, so is the substation a red herring in this whole thing? Is this something that will redirect the project or will put the project in jeopardy in general based upon the history that Dave got brought up and kind of the background? So that was one thing I picked up on both reading through that as well as what's out in the street now for information. I'm wondering from the committee standpoint what our attitude is towards the idea of putting the substation as part of the criteria.
So when we were, maybe this needs to go in there, but you just reminded me that we talked about on the substation as part of the Continental Drive.
Yes.
Right? I think we had talked about having that as a clearly separate from the police station. Is that how the wording is?
Well,
It is not in this.
it's not.
So, is that-
In fact, and I don't remember us talking about it being separate.
well, I mean, identifying it as that way you could have like the police station and then an added cost to do the substation is this. Be able to talk to that where,
Okay, because we didn't
oh, I
do
thought.
that, but if you think that's something we should make a distinction on,
Yeah.
that's fine. I would say, Mark, Rob, and you know, I've been one of the main pains in the rear end for the fire department about the substation for as long as I can remember when I was on the budget committee in here. But I'll tell you that if the chief is willing to sign up to getting, 20 Court Street without any major modifications to it, in exchange for 3 bays up or 2 bays up at the new police station, then I'm all for it, because that means you can do $12.9 million for both the substation and the police station together, and you take off the table all of the additional expense of doing something with Court Street.
Sure, but I don't want to debate this because I know you guys have already gone through it, but I would just say that our goal at the beginning was to try to take all projects and group them together so we understood the total potential cost to the community.
Right.
And so whether we say that the fire station nothing's happening to the fire station now, doesn't mean that something's going to happen to the fire station in 2 years or 3 years. It is a 1980s building. It is in woefully inadequate condition. It is poorly constructed. It's poorly used. And the reality is that it will be on the agenda. It will be something that has to get done. And we can't just sit there and divorce ourselves from the idea that that building is just going to be reused as is. That's
No, it's not going to be reused as is. There's going to be minor, modest, whatever you want to call it, changes. But if the fire chief is going to sit there and say, I can live with that building with modest or minor changes, then if he wants to come back in 2 years and say, I can't live with that building, that's one thing. But I kind of trust him to not do that. So if he's willing to lock himself into that building with just the idea of only, minor changes, hopefully just funded through maintenance budgets, then that's his bed.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not, what's the word I want, the wisest course of action for the town in the long run, but it depends on how you define the long run. And my definition of the long run is between now and maybe 2035 and 2040, maybe. So, but if I don't see how that relates to the substation, I mean,
Well,
I would just say what my recommendation would be is to decouple the substation from, so that the substation is
An added cost.
a subset of this study.
yeah.
That it is an additive item so that you can actually, when you start comparing apples to apples, it's the police to police fire, it's a apples to apples comparison as opposed to, police with the substation. That's my thought.
But when we were talking with Valley, I mean, maybe we didn't, I know we asked questions about the substation didn't have to happen at the same time.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I was thinking that's something we could put in here, is
Yeah,
that.
because we were asking questions
Yeah.
about, as far as, if the police station was the priority, drive to the police station, but then make sure that at some point in the future, a substation could be added.
Yeah.
And remember, that's what
Yeah,
maybe we
that's-
didn't, we were asking questions, but maybe we didn't get to the point about, we want to separate it. But I agree, I mean, to me, the priorities are a police station, a fire station, and if it stays in the existing building, then whatever that scope is, that it's there, a police station, and then the substation to me is, I think it needs to be flushed out more, whether it's absolutely needed or it be a future added.
Let me give you a little history on fire substations. One was presented 2006 or 5, somewhere around there, for that space out on Continental Drive, or a similar one that we had bought and sold. And it was a Taj Mahal of fire stations with meeting rooms and conference rooms.
And it was supposed to be a substation? Okay, they're still going to stay.
It was, at the time, $4 million.
They're probably trying to make up there, but they didn't have
Yeah.
here,
Right,
right?
yeah. It had 6 bays and I don't remember what else, but it went down in flames.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was supposed to be a substation, and everybody knew that was two bays and a place for.
and even after that, the fire department couldn't convince people that just 2 bays
Right.
was necessary, and the cost had gone down, or maybe not gone down, but the cost had morphed into $2.5 million for a 2-bay substation. But even that was continually rejected either by the voters if they had a chance on it, or the Budget Recommendations Committee.
And
So-
it was because they had part of it was because they had the bad taste in their mouth from the
Yeah.
big
Right.
project.
Yeah.
If you guys want to do that, that's not fine by me for the following reason, because I felt that when working with Dave and Chief Wilking, created the hybrid option 1, I included the fire station in that, and that's what Chief Wilking signed off on. So if you guys think that delinking the police station and the substation as an entity to be done or addressed later, then I don't know whether Chief Wilking would buy into that. And again, he doesn't have to for us to do something if we think it's smarter. But B, I feel compelled from my point of view to support, having been a strong opponent of the substation, as a compromise, putting it together with the police station. But again, if the will of the committee, our committee, is to delink it, we just need to understand that, and if we have a vote, I'll vote no, but I'll just say we should delink it.
I'll make a motion that we try to decouple them, so then I put it up to anybody seconds that.
So can I just ask a question, Peter? Your option 1 hybrid.
Yeah.
You talk about that the substation's part of the police station.
Right.
But you're basing this on that it's a significantly less project at the existing building then? Is that
Oh,
what you're
yeah,
saying?
yeah. The compromise, if you will, and Dave, help me out here if I need it. The compromise was, okay, Chief, you get your 2 bays next to the police station, and you scratch the itch of Western Exeter and Riverwoods for, which you've been trying to get done for years. And we get a much more scaled back effort at 20
that's
Court
right
Street
here.
for the fire department.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was the trade-off that he only made
Okay.
to me,
So-
not to anybody else.
There is actually one other caveat too, I think, is that I believe that the purchase of the land on Continental Drive was contingent upon it being developed as a substation for the fire department.
Okay, well, nobody's ever raised that, and
That's actually what the warrant article, I tried to change the warrant article during the deliberative session,
Yeah.
so it was not specifically for the fire department.
Right.
But it was voted on, and it was voted that it was specifically for the fire department. I'm not sure if that language is still in the purchase of that property.
So that means that if we delink the projects, and that's not a good reason for me to delink, for you guys to delink the project.
It's a
It
good
just
reason
means
to
we have
keep them
change it.
together.
Yeah, it is, but if you guys are convinced that you ought to delink them, then it's up to the select board, if it buys
Yeah.
into that recommendation, to go back to the voters to make that change. But,
Yeah. So I missed on your first paragraph on that last sentence that you had that the additional space with only minimum or modest changes. So I apologize, Peter, I didn't see that. So we can leave option 1 hybrid alone, but I agree with you, Rob, that maybe it's a one up above here, that we just say the 3 facility options presented by LA that we propose that the substation be separated as a separate cost or something like that, right? I mean, I think it should be at least represented that you have a police station on Continental Drive, and it is the cost for that substation.
I think that's in there. I mean, I think that's.
Is it in there?
In the options that, help me out, Dave, if I'm wrong.
Is it already in there?
Yeah,
I thought it was in option 1 or option 2.
I don't have the materials.
Option 1, we asked, and I heard that discussion, and I don't know if you folks have seen it yet, but it was clear that you wanted to break out, and I had asked that before,
Yeah.
even before that even meeting that you talked about, and he did it, LaValle did it. He broke
Okay.
out the costs of both, like, okay, if you take out the substation out of this PD of Continental, these are what the 2 numbers look like. So he has that, that's been done. I'm not sure what else you mean by detail.
No, I didn't. I didn't have the documents in front of me.
And
So
it doesn't address whether, if you,
Did he actually?
yeah, option
Okay.
option 1, I assume I think all the options have that
he has it as a line item.
in the.
Yeah, you'd have to do the math to take it out. But
Well,
Yeah,
he did what I'm saying is he did the math.
you have something newer then.
Yeah,
Yeah, he did
okay.
the math, he did the contingency, he kind of, because he.
Oh, well, that's in here too. The escalation.
Yeah, but he
Yeah.
separated them and he has that information because that's what you folks wanted, but we haven't brought anything back yet, just kind of waiting for this letter.
Yeah.
Well, so we should. I think we should still put it. I think we should still put it in the letter. I think that's what you're proposing.
I would propose that it's put in there that ultimately, either, literally, if it's just a separate paragraph within the same options,
Yeah.
that it's ultimately, it's just saying that, here's this, here's that, and it's an additive thing versus having to subtract it back out again.
And it sounds like they've done it. It's just, I think that
Yeah,
and I think we can still put it in our letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you can still leave option 1 hybrid alone.
Well, I have a problem with option 1 hybrid in the sense that there's nothing really done to the fire department, the existing fire department. They've shown, as Rob has stated, it's a failing facility. They need upgraded facilities as well, and this option 1 doesn't address that.
It doesn't, but, go ahead, Dave.
So,
It will. We're really early. They just kind of did test bits right now. So what we asked them to do to kind of develop option 1 a little bit more is what is the program? And they have not done this. This is kind of like a next step. They're taking the building. Now, if say, for example, option 1 is, and PD moves up, then what does the programming for the fire department look like with the PD space? And what minimal or modest changes are needed? And they haven't done that yet, but they will. They are going, we're going to ask them to do that. We're kind of waiting for your letter.
yeah,
To go to next.
I thought one of the issues, Dave, that LaValle presented, the bays are small
Yeah.
in the existing fire department, so that's pretty significant renovation to resize the bays, which I think is needed, but that's not a minimal or, light
They are
renovation.
looking into that. There's a few different options out there, and we are working to try to figure that exact question.
You know what I mean? I just don't want to leave the fire department out in the cold on all this, because we've got all the studies that show, the operational analysis and all that. They need improvements, they need a better facility for the next 30 years, and I want to make sure we address that. Even though Chief Wilking is willing to just take over the building,
Well, right, but
he doesn't know when the building's going to fail at some
Well,
point.
no, but he, as the biggest proponent of fixing the problem, if he's willing to just take over the building, then that's a pretty significant both operational judgment as well as an architectural and construction facilities judgment. But having said that, if I remember what LB said, they said, hey, you can put an extension on the back end of the garage bays for bigger trucks, and correct me, Dave, if I'm wrong, I thought that he said that. B, what Chief Wilking didn't say was, at least as of some time ago, you could go to a fire truck manufacturer and say, build me a fire truck that fits this envelope.
Right.
So it's not like every Ford coming off the line was going to be the same. So they have an option to address the envelope they have and still get themselves new equipment.
You can get new equipment, you just keep having to buy the smaller equipment.
No.
So they're limited on what they can buy for larger equipment.
Well, that's true, but if you say to a chief, can you meet your needs with the smaller truck, whatever that is, then it's up to him to say yes or no. And that's a question for later. So, again, I don't think we're going to be able to have the best of all worlds. We can have them, La Valley Brensinger, study the best of all worlds, and that's what options 1, 2, and 3 are. And maybe, Dave, when you tell them, or what they're already doing will be the best of all worlds, or slightly better than now, or maybe major better than now. But it's not going to happen.
I know. Let's work through the letter. I mean, you're editorializing, and that's okay.
Right.
I want to work through the
everybody's
letter.
editorializing. Let's not, let's be fair on this.
All right.
The other reason for me for the separating out the substation too is that there's a yearly budgetary link to that, because it will increase staffing in general for the police and fire department, because they have to staff that facility 24/7. I believe it was 3 or 4 additional people they needed to staff that facility. Actually, maybe it was 3. Team plus, actually, no, it was 4. Team plus 1 person to be in the station. So it's an expansion. It's an expansion of their current service model. And part of that would be, again, if you're going to do that, you're expanding the service model, and then it brings, going back to the same thing. I want this thing to pass. I want it to move forward. I want to make sure we see all the bogeys that are out there that are potential roadblocks, and I could see that one being something that's buried in there that somebody else would understand, is that also would include having to budget for new people.
But I also want to add that I don't think that this project of a new police station and fixing the fire department is contingent on having a substation, right? So that's where, no, or, well, on option 1A, on option 1, hybrid is, but what I'm saying, the other options is that, which, I think it's fine to have an option 1 hybrid. I guess my point is that the priorities that we're trying to address are the existing building isn't adequate for police and fire, right? So if we build a police station somewhere else, we think we can convert the existing building, public safety complex to meet fire department, or whatever that scope is. It's just not contingent on having to have a substation somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, that's my point, is where I feel like, as far as separating it can be added later, but I don't want it to be this to fail because of the substation.
We're
saying the same thing. It's just, that's where, to me, and I think, again, it's fine to have an option 1 hybrid, because this is a good compromise, Peter, that you've worked through, but I still think that there's other ones that maybe the voters will say, oh, we like this idea, but we don't want a substation. So I think we've addressed both. We've got a hybrid that provides it, lower cost, and we'll have an option that as someone who was just adamant against a substation can vote for and but still get what we want, so.
So Rob, you've made a couple motions that we haven't acted on. I mean,
We
so
never got a
what?
second on that one.
Pardon me?
We never got a second on.
No, we didn't, but I think we need just to revisit it to re-motion and clarify what it is that you,
I would make a motion that we add to, on the hybrid side, just break out as a sub-bullet to 1, the substation, and then I would also, on the theoretical price, I would break out just a differential between fire and then what the substation would be.
Did you want, by the way, in the letter, it asks them to give us the current and future personnel levels. Did you want to make it stronger? I'm not, they had, once they got the 7th, I'm sure they want to have the 8th, but I didn't get it. And tell me, Dave, I didn't get the impression that the chief was saying, I'm going to have another complement of people to man that substation, but I could be wrong on that. I don't know.
yeah, like they can't just transfer a couple people?
That was in the original report back when it first came out. It was to hire a new team. I was on the budget committee at that point in time when that came up, and that was what happened, was that they had in their budget that if they were going to do that, they had to have additional people to service it. That may have changed over the last close to 20 years, so.
Yeah, I haven't heard that come up, and I do know they had staffing numbers in there.
They already have
In the
staffing
reports.
numbers before getting to the
Yeah,
report.
yeah, they are looking to modestly add staff over the next, 10 years, I'd say.
And we've asked them for those numbers as part of the display.
And I think part of the addition of staff, too, was just part of that operational study, was finding that there was too much overtime and that they'd actually save money and maybe, not burn people out if they were to add a couple more full-time people. So yeah, we can add that. I guess I gotta find a place to stick that in. So as we work through option 1, hybrid. So it sounds like item 1, community input, that one's all set. We'll leave that as is. Item 2, presentation material and facility options. We recommend these changes, blah, blah, blah. In addition to the 3 facility options, we recommend 2 additional options could be developed and presented. So I guess we're knee-deep into option 1 at this point. And at some point, so let me see. I'll just try to see where we can add.
Can we just, we're asking them to study these additional options,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
We recommend that 2 additional options be developed, I don't know, I guess it's just a wordsmith if you want to say be developed or be studied.
So, build a new 18,000 square foot police headquarters and include a new 6,000 square foot 2-bay fire department substation. So that stays,
You could say,
but then we want to say, or we need to put text in there about, I guess what we're calling decoupling.
yeah, that would come after both the police and fire chief were consulted in developing this option, meaning option 1. You could do, even though it's another bullet in an already cluttered outline, you could say, option 1, decoupling, and you could just put a paragraph in that says, present or study option 1 hybrid without including the police, the fire station, or separate out.
So the way I would see this is that, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it was just saying that I would see option 1 hybrid, then I would have below that bullet, build new 18,000 square foot police station headquarters at 6 Continental Drive, bullet, a new 6,000 square foot 2-bay fire department substation for total.
No, I think you gotta have it separate. I think we gotta keep option 1 hybrid and create another option, if you will. to delink them.
You might
Because-
have to, just because of the price tag, like you've got the price in option one, and that's clearly for both.
Yeah,
And
so,
we'd have to get in there and do another bullet point. The cost of option one.
I would just leave
be
option
this.
one hybrid alone. This is all based on a minimal work
Right.
at the existing 24th Street. You just leave that standalone, we're recommending it, and then,
Well, just,
I mean-
I guess the only itch I have to scratch on that is I need a little more reassurance how the fire department gets where they need to go on that, on option one. Just besides the chief saying, oh, I can make this work, it's nice of him to be accommodating, but we need to think of the longer term.
but we're just asking them to study this, right? I mean, this is where they're going to have to really, to be clear on what this means, what the existing building is going to be, right? I mean, we're asking them to look at this as that we build a new police station with a potential substation, but you do minimal work at the existing 24th Street. So they're going to have to say what that work is.
That's what I'm having a hard time with.
I mean, maybe we just need to strengthen that and to say that it needs to be communicated very clear on what is happening to that existing building,
Yeah.
yeah.
right? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's where, I mean, we're asking them to study this to see, and it may not be a viable option anymore. If it comes back and says, the only thing we're doing is replacing carpet and updating lights. And then it just may not be a valid option.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, you're worried that it's going to be, that we're going.
Well, yeah, like, basically how I see the option one hybrid playing out is half the project gets done. We have a new police,
Yep.
maybe a substation, and that's it, for a long time. And then, we've listened to and we've read all the reports, we've seen the deficiencies of the fire station. I don't think we'd be doing our job properly if we didn't try to address that.
Do you want a sentence then that says, the fire department then would adopt additional space with only minimum or modest changes, perhaps funded through annual maintenance budgets, or a warrant article, LB to work with fire chief to better define what those minimum or modest changes would be and over what time period? You don't want to give them the excuse, you don't want them to give them the excuse to wave away minimum or modest changes and say, I can live with it. So the only way I can think of making sure of getting that out is to have LB go to the chief and say, what does this mean? How much per year through either maintenance or warrants?
Let me just,
I mean, the only way that I would guess that that Chief Wilkins accepting this as to consider is because he's getting a new substation out of this.
So,
Right? If you take the substation out, then he just gets what he has now, except a little bit more space.
Yeah.
could you take the hybrid option and put a budget to the renovations of the existing facility? So we basically have a straw man that actually is something that actually says you have to.
well, I guess the way I see this playing out, and this is just my interpretation, I don't know. It just feels to me like here we get half the project done, and how do we ensure, is there another way to make sure the FD needs get addressed somewhat? So I guess the last sentence in the first paragraph, the FD would adapt that additional space with only minimum or modest changes. I guess I don't really, at this point, I don't know what to say.
To be defined by.
Yeah.
Okay, so-
I think that's what this is what we need you to study to figure out.
I just,
To be defined by further discussions with the LB and the fire chief.
Yeah, I
So
think
that- I
that
mean-
makes sense.
What, this?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
So, I don't know, does that sound?
I mean, if this option gets selected, it's just kicking the can down the road of what to do with the existing.
And that's, I guess
Well, that's what I'm saying, that's what I'm trying to avoid here.
Yeah.
in
but-
some ways, I don't like option one hybrid, period. That's my gut reaction is that this does kick the thing down the road. Does it respect the idea that you're probably not going to get a $30 million project approved? I think that's part of the reality. But it does kick the thing down the road. And then the question would be is which, from a town's perspective, which is the most important to get done? Is it police or is it fire?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing to study this, though, to be honest with you. I mean, I think it's 13 million that the fire department gets a substation out of this, right? So, but I think it's a fair question to go back and say, what is the minimum that could be done at 20 Core Street? I don't think it's nothing. I think it could be 2 million or something like that.
Right.
But you know what I mean? But I think it's not a bad question to say and maybe the answer is we can't because of code upgrades, accessibility upgrades, renewal updates, that you're going to be up to this category anyways.
And they ultimately should meet energy code requirements. So New Hampshire has ComCheck now, which basically you're supposed to submit that, many places don't, to make sure that the windows, the building envelope, all these things meet current energy code.
If you add, after warrant article, if you put a comment in that said, to be further defined as to scope, cost, and schedule, which gets into when they would do it, they further defined as to scope, cost, and schedule by LB and the fire chief.
I don't know if I have the latest one. I don't have a warrant article in here. Did you make any changes to? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I deleted warrant article. I get there one, don't worry.
All right.
I deleted it so that last sentence, yeah, I think.
All right, here's what I would propose as far as smoking out the additional things that the chief thinks he's going to need, but maybe doesn't necessarily want to say now, only because he's trying to help us keep the numbers down.
Yeah,
So
okay, just a second. So to be further defined as to scope, cost, and schedule.
What was, and Peter, in your 12.9 option, is that one of the options that you have? What was the cost of the substation, about 2 million?
It was, is the height?
6,000 square feet times
Yeah, and it was,
$150 a square foot.
yeah, and they lowballed it to 350.
So 2 million.
No, but that includes the total project.
So that's 195 to 2.1, and of course, there's stuff buried in here that would obviously.
Yeah, so they didn't do the soft cost, but, I mean, you could say, that you're just going to build a police station and take that substation cost and renovate the existing 20 Core Street, right?
Yes.
Take the 2 million that would have cost the substation and put the 2 million into the 20 Core Street.
You could. Again, if you want to do that, I would create option 1B and make option 1 hybrid A.
Well, no, but I think this comes out of the study of this option 1 that we.
Right.
We say, okay, in order for this 20 Core Street to work, it's a $2 million renovation.
And that supports the idea of breaking the two out into separate items so that you understand the program for the substation, the cost of the substation, then if you wanted to take that and transfer it to the changes to the existing facility, it's a breakout. And
I mean, what we're trying to do is get the town to include these as study these options, right? This isn't final, so, I mean, this may, what if they have 5 options, by the time this gets done, they'll get down to two options, and it could be a hybrid of all these things, right? So.
So this letter is just to add on to what the report was with their 3 or 4 options.
Yeah, this says, okay, we've heard your 3 options, and this is what we think you ought to do going forward to advance the study effort as well, advance the study effort as well as get ready to bring before the public all of this other stuff, along with the first 3.
Yeah, I guess I agree with Rob in the sense I have a hard time with the option 1 hybrid and overall.
Okay, I think.
Even with the wording that we're talking about?
That's making it better. I just
All right, well,
feel like it's.
Let me suggest that
It just
you
doesn't
create
get
another.
the whole project done.
Okay.
And I understand the arguments about
I'm not
we
going
want
to
it to pass and the money and all that.
I'm not going to make those arguments, but the
Okay.
question is, do you think that either option 1, 2, or 3 gets the job done?
Well, one of their options is basically this, except they just had gone into a little more detail of what they would do at 20 Court Street.
Well, the 10,000 square foot addition,
Yeah.
that's more than just a little at 20 Court Street.
Yeah, and I think as they work through that, maybe that comes down,
Well, right, but-
that's not far from this.
But you're worried about not addressing the fire department's needs, and not having them studied. My question is, under the 3 options that Valley Brensinger has already presented, are those deficient in meeting the fire department's needs? Because if they're not, those represent a baseline that answers the question about whether the itches are being scratched. And so,
I thought they did.
what?
I thought they did.
So your issue of option 1 hybrid is you shouldn't be dissatisfied with option 1 hybrid. That's just different from the first 3 options, which do meet in different ways all of the
Right,
itches.
those meet the needs of the fire department.
Right, so-
This one, the way we had originally worded it, it did not.
Well, it did not, but again, if you already studied or are continuing to study what does meet the needs, the people need to know if there are other options that don't meet all those needs and whether those are acceptable. So that's what the point of option 1 is. And if you want to break out, you can say, I do option 1 with the 6,000-foot substation in it and with the 6,000-foot substation without it, or separate, or not there. So you can have them in the context of studying the hybrid, do it with the substation and without the substation. And recognize that neither of those is going to scratch the department's itches.
So in all of the other options, though, at Continental Drive, they have the substation in their options.
Right.
So the question would be, I would say that one of the options should be without the substation.
I just said that.
Right. I'm reaffirming what,
Okay.
I'm stating it again.
We're in violent agreement.
Right,
Yeah.
we are in violation, yes.
Yeah.
So we're saying
Sure.
to me, it's like, why are we repeating the same option?
Well, okay.
So I see what you're saying, Rob. So just make option 1, but also just break out the substation.
Just
Well,
break it up. 'Cause the
No,
reality
leave
is-
it in the hybrid, and then take it out of the hybrid. So you have 2 different choices, and the people can look at a $12.9 million choice, whatever the right numbers are at the end of the day, or they can look at a $10 million choice, if you believe that the substation's only going to be $2 million.
Yeah,
But-
2.5 million. in there.
But I would really push strongly for leaving the option 1 hybrid as it is and then creating another one without the fire station. Because as far as I'm concerned, I have a personal deal with the chief to present that.
Yeah.
So it's okay, you guys don't have to, what's the word? I didn't make the deal for you guys.
Right, we weren't- we
You
were
weren't
not
party,
consulted.
you weren't consulted, you
So when
weren't
it says
party.
police chief and fire chief were consulted.
Well,
we-
the police
we
chief and
didn't-
fire chief were consulted on that option.
Yeah, by
They're
you.
not consulted on taking the fire station out.
And we didn't discuss that as a group.
Right, so you just put another bullet down there that says, do option 1 hybrid, or just do the police department
Yeah.
at Continental Drive. With the option later of adding a fire substation, I don't know under what conditions, just option later of adding the substation, without saying under what conditions.
I wouldn't even, to me, that, again, if we're looking at police and fire, the substation to me it's a subset of a subset that ultimately, to me, pollutes the project.
Well, then when people look at the second formulation of option 1 hybrid without the substation, they're going to embrace that And they're gonna say, great, we don't care about we don't wanna give them the fire station.
Right.
But we ought to have them both in, is my point. We ought to have them both there analytically, and they can decide it.
So is, from I guess part of the negotiation that you had was a discussion with the fire chief and the police chief was ultimately coming up with a project that is financially feasible. I think that's the end goal. Was that the? It
was twofold. It was and I set it up, so, they were trying to help. I basically said, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong here, what can you live with that's going to cost less or significantly less and reduce the sticker shock to the public because they're never going to buy off on a $20 million anything. So they, I don't even know what the police chief's happy because he's going to get his 18,000 square feet, so he doesn't really, other than saying, yeah, I can live with that, and I'll be happy to do a remote, a remote office downtown. He's happy, that's minimal. It was the fire chief who made the biggest compromise in discussing with him what this would be.
But the compromise was based on getting a new substation.
Yeah, absolutely, that's right.
I don't think that's a compromise.
No, but I mean, he's accepting less work or no work at 24th
Yeah, I mean, it is a compromise, Rob. I mean, just because the guy's been trying to get the substation for years, but he's also been trying to get a new station for years. So if he's willing to give up on a new station downtown to get his substation, that's his choice. So, whether you like it or not, it's not just some devious way to get both, which is what you're suggesting.
I am suggesting that the idea is that the primary goal of this particular project and this particular study and everything else was for the police and the fire public safety complex. And I would like to focus the attention on that part of it, and so that ultimately, if an economical solution would be is you do option 1B, whatever, it would be police only out at Continental Drive, and the $2.5 million remainder goes towards the renovation or whatever additions.
If you want to do that, that's fine.
I say that's a good option. I would just put that down as a problem.
Just make that a separate option.
Let's just do that, just to say that, that.
It's all it does is it takes.
Make that as a separate option, that's fine.
I would leave that one and just say that, and I would just clarify that we're asking them to consider these options, right? So.
Yeah, that's right, it's just another option on the list that we want studied.
And you can do an option 2 and push the 30 Core Street option to option 3 and just say exactly that, Rob. I think that's a good option to consider. Whatever was allocated for a substation, you apply towards 20 Core Street, right?
Yeah.
And then you keep the budget into a $10 million or whatever, $10+ million project.
Yeah, so they can study that and they can say for $2 million, this is what you're going to get at 20 Core Street. So
I just want to say we keep throwing around these numbers. Remember, these are wrong budgets.
Yep.
Rough order of magnitude. So.
Yep.
I think we're far from getting a guaranteed price for an item on this. So we are throwing around these numbers like, oh, it's going to be this, it's going to be that.
Yeah.
No, but
rough order of magnitude.
But I think the rough order of magnitude is that if you're, yes, I think we're all in understanding to that, and I think it was pointed out by the LBA folks at the thing, that these were rough numbers and.
Yeah, but the price per square foot numbers were there. Those are in the ballpark though, so. Based on the size building.
For now.
I'm in the process of doing.
To be made between now and then.
Yeah.
That you can make that can affect.
I'm doing 4 projects right now, and I'll tell you right now, the prices are well beyond that number. So it doesn't even, to me, the number is purely a way of benchmarking option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4.
Because even the other projects around the area in Massachusetts, the ones that have been done lately, most of them have higher per square foot costs.
Yeah, but it's an order of magnitude exactly what you're comparing, right? So the police station, they're all going to be relative to each other. So
it's 18,000 square feet to 18,000 square feet to 18,000. It's X dollars, and it's just the size, scale, and scope of the project.
Right. So did you add option 2?
You might want to do a mathematical equation that one is M
Right.
plus X plus Y, and maybe add the $18 million down at the
Gonna
bottom.
say, yeah.
But, one is 2M.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, Peter? Rob saying it's much more expensive.
What is?
Prices per square foot.
Oh, yeah,
construction.
absolutely.
So this 13 million could be,
Right, but it's all relative. If the 13 million ends up being 15 million, then the 20 million that they come up with
Exactly.
for each of the other options is 25.
Yep.
So yeah, I got it. It's all relative, and everybody knows, as Dave says, at least we know, that they're rough order of magnitude, and La Valley Brensinger has an obligation when it discusses the costs at the public, whatever, they've got to say that.
Yeah.
They've got to explain to people how soft the numbers are.
all right, so what, I was doing some editing on option 1 hybrid, not to in any way change the
Yeah, that's
wording
all
of it. It was just to kind of clarify some things after the price tag option. So option 2, what was that? I mean, option 1A, or what we're going to call option 2.
I would just call it option 2.
All right, option 2,
And with the other one to option 3. What was it, Rob?
It was to build at 18,000 square feet and take and not the substation, and take 2 million that sort of was represented by the substation and put that back into 20 Court Street.
Yeah, I would take the remainder of the budget, I wouldn't put it to the remainder of the budget for the 6,000 square feet or whatever into,
The costs allocated to the 6,000 square foot
Right.
Yeah.
substation be applied to a renovation of the existing 20.
and we know the cost of that 6,000 square foot substation, right?
It's on this
We have
thing.
that.
Yeah, it's
So we
between
have-
It was a range,
1.95 and
but, yeah.
2.1
Just, yeah.
in the bogus
Well-
ROM numbers anyway.
Bogus, but
plus some of the
that's,
soft costs.
yeah, and that's taking into account
Yeah.
that there's a much larger building being built next to it, so that's why it's
Yeah.
cheaper, because there's, they're
Yeah.
going to be,
it's part of the
they're going to be
construction of
mobilized
18,000.
and all that, yes.
Yeah, but they had it broken out, but you could just, I would just say
All right.
the funds allocated towards the substation be applied towards,
I will say something along that lines.
then your option 2 goes down to option 3, right? The 30
Yeah, I
dash 32 Court
I
Street
have to get
PD
out of here
option.
at 6:30. Let's, so any discussion on the 3032 Court Street option?
Yeah, I'd say ixnay.
You don't like it,
Really
Julie?
says
All we're studying, all we're going to study.
Yeah, no, the 30 was the fire station many decades ago, before the 79 building, and so that would be funny, for one thing, but the other building,
You mean the senior center was the fire
Yeah.
station?
Yeah.
Oh.
it was 2 or 3 stories.
Yeah.
3 stories at one time, then 2 stories, and
Probably had like 2 bays on it, maybe, or?
2, I believe, yeah. There's a photo, my uncle was an assistant fire chief there.
So why did it get smaller? Was there a fire?
It's
there was.
funny,
Was
actually. When it was built as a schoolhouse, and then they found that it was structurally unsound, and they built the boys' high school next door at 32 or 34, whichever the number is, and moved the library out, so it was empty, and the town said, hey, let's make a fire station. So I don't know why an unstable building became a fire station.
Yeah.
But they took out a floor because I don't know where the firemen were sleeping, but they only needed 1 floor, and so they lowered the roof, and maybe that's what was unstable was the roof. And then after that, after they moved to this new place, they just used it for the whatever they could put on the what's that fake rock called? New England. What is it called? New England Master, Brickmaster on the outside.
Well,
Anyway, so we go on with your conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as far as 3032 Court Street, the only way we're gonna smoke out how upset people will be by using.
put it there, yeah.
Is to put it in there and make it study, and we'll see about all the degrades that forcing the police into that footprint will be, and the neighbors have their opportunity to go crazy, and then whoever thinks they wanna do something else with the building, redevelop it in some way, they'll come out of the woodwork. And the people who are most concerned about all of the history associated with that site, they'll come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, and I think there's ways for us to the potential is, could you move the building, could you relocate it, could you do something else with it so that you continue the historical part of it, but, clear
But
the...
like Peter said, we have to show the option was considered,
Yeah.
and mostly because we're moving the Parks and Rec out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
It's town property.
They
See what it is.
Julie, they did do a test fit.
Yeah, no, I saw that on the study thing. Yeah. Just don't have it in front of me.
Sorry, so I'm trying to get through this. So any strong feelings on the Court Street option, just to study it? Is that the general consensus?
Well, that's in the original study bio.
They had really kind of poo-pooed it pretty quickly.
Yeah, they
Like,
came in short
well,
shrift.
we can't fit the cars there, so.
Yeah, and the point is, yeah, we know that. See if you can do it with fewer cars.
Well, and going back to comparing the apples to apples after listening to this is that if they were willing to live with the existing station where they had to have 2 stories and they had to go from the second floor to the first floor, which is one of the reasons they wanted pancake thing. So the reality is that that's part of the compromise of any of these scenarios is that if you exist in the existing building and you renovate it, you still have this issue of a separation of floors from one floor to the other floor. They, talked about the idea of building the parking piece, building a lot of the parking underneath the building, a portion of it. Again, costs more money, but the reality is you're saving, with the density of the site, there's other opportunities there. So you don't just put a square on it, say 18,000 square feet, put a bunch of parking spaces in the back and then call it a day. That to me is not I would have done it, but.
Yeah, but they could have, the reality is that they could have shown this would be a lot more money to make this work based on the program that they have,
Correct.
right? They just said it's not going to fit because of this, and that's what we were asking about parking.
Yeah.
So can you live with less parking? So I think that they should put a little more effort into it.
Yeah.
I think that's the
I would
purpose of
agree.
this.
They were following like strict setbacks and all that stuff.
Right. And looking, and the town doesn't have to follow those. Plus, you look at the nature of the street. The street is a dense street. The buildings are pulled forward. So if you're, from a historical standpoint, if you're trying to create street frontage, you're not going to push the building way back and make it look like, something different.
Parking lot.
So
Yeah.
But I also think that there's some, they should go through the whole thing, demonstrate that if the 49 spaces that they were asking for, what's the number of staff that are on duty at any one time, what happens at shift change, They need to, and I think, Peter, you said it very well in the thing, was just that they need to demonstrate the difference between what they currently have and currently operate in versus what they're going to have and what they're going to operate in. Because people will only know,
But it's not a Taj Mahal.
they've only got like 45 total spaces in their current lot.
All right, so I think we're all in agreement on that. PD would relocate. No downtown, okay.
By the way, under F, if we're going to have another option, you're going to have to change F from 5 options to 6.
Yeah. All right,
It's an easy one.
I'm just gonna put a number in too, so if I have to change
Maybe
it
we can
again.
keep it at 5, because option 3, with separating, it doesn't really work without a substation on Holland Way, with least, based on all the studies we've paid, going by, the CPSM study, the multiple studies that have been done that recommend the substation. But moving it out of the downtown, that option 3 on Holland Way. But we've researched Holland Way a little bit more. We talked to DPW. I thought that was the flavor of the Facilities Advisory Committee, that the town is not looking to pursue Holland Way. There's too many issues with the site. It conflicts with the wastewater, the surface water treatment plant. That plant is down there below the reservoir right now, is in tough shape, and maybe someday we'll need one. They did design an actual surface water treatment plant that conflicts with this, because we overlaid them and looked at it, and there's just not much appetite to look at
Yeah,
all.
I think that's okay, as long as we present that at the public meeting,
Yeah,
saying this is.
just wanted to be clear on
Yeah.
that, because I think that's where
Yeah, I don't think any of us,
You know,
So the
that was
hydrant-
discussed.
Dave, I tried to get this group to just drop it completely, and they told me no.
well, no, they can present it at the first public meeting and then
Yeah, I'm
it
not
can
gonna
go
reopen
away.
the argument,
That's an
but
option,
yeah.
it's not a preferred option, it's not like
Exactly.
appetite. There's access issues, we don't even own that sliver, you know, in front of it, we don't have frontage. Coming in the other way along the Exeter River Reservoir is challenging, so. It's just, the more we look at it, the less inclined we are to pursue that as an option.
Hopefully, the Valley Brenswick won't spend a lot of money.
They're not.
Fleshing
We've
that
already
one out.
Indicated to them.
But we should be able to, tell the people that we did look at this option.
Sure.
Because
Yeah,
it does have its
Yeah.
placement
say
advantage.
this is why it stinks.
Yeah.
All right, does anybody have anything else for the rest of the points? Any comments?
I would reiterate, yeah, I think that the idea of just showing cost ranges versus anything else and versus specific numbers. And with reinforcing the idea that these are still preliminary and they're basically order of magnitude versus in a way to compare.
So do you just want another paragraph or another sentence that says something like that at the end that says,
Well,
in providing cost
In
estimates?
point C, we're talking about, we recommend
Right.
using
Yeah,
larger
it's already
cost
there.
ranges.
Yeah, I think it's well stated. I think
Oh, okay.
it's good.
All right. Were you in favor of a specific number, or are you okay with a range?
And I think that a range would be good, because I think like when I see the number there, this is like anything else. So when you put a number that specific,
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
There's too many
way
variables.
too specific.
Yeah.
It should be somewhere between like 95 and 12.5 or 95 and, something.
Okay. So separate costs for fire and police facilities for each option, okay. All right, so if all the other points are good, let me just read back the three options. And then we can see if we're ready to vote on that. So, presentation material and facilities options. We recommend these changes, additions to the presentation materials and facilities options. In addition to the three facilities options presented by LBA, we recommend that two additional options be developed. I guess I gotta change that to three.
Yeah.
Be developed and presented to the voters. Option 1, build a new 18,000 square foot police department headquarters at 6 Continental Drive and a new 6,000 square foot 2-bay fire department substation for a total of 24,000 square feet. Move the PD from 20 Court Street and turn over the square foot PD spaces to the FD at that location. And this is where I simplified it a little bit. I said the FD would absorb the former PD space with additional renovations to be further defined by LBA and the fire department.
You're going to have to say something, you're going to have to call it something different from option one, because we already have an option 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, what do you
Yeah.
mean? Oh,
Well, in other words,
the LBA
the reason I used the word
presentation?
hybrid was to
All right.
make it different from options 1, 2, and 3. But
You want me to-
whatever you want to call it, I don't care, 4, 5, and 6. I don't know.
All right, let's do that. Okay, continuing on with, now, let me just call it option 1 hybrid. It gets too confusing. I'll try to say option 4, 5, and 6.
Hybrid 2.
Yeah, we'll do option hybrid, and then we'll just do the Court Street. So we'll leave the numbering as is. The theoretical price tag for the Continental Drive facility is $12,902,400. See, they didn't round it up to 4.
It is so specific. Everybody's going to remember that number
Yeah.
forever.
The last payment to the clerk of the work.
Especially when it goes above
$2,400,
13.
so-
Exactly.
We were under 13.
Yeah, exactly.
The goal would be to further reduce the $12,902,400 through the pre-con further reduced throughout the pre-construction process. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to make any assumptions on how we'll get there. There's a lot of different ways we can try to work on it.
As long as you can assure me that they're not going to poo-poo modular buildings and
Yeah, now the
butler
whole...
buildings and
the
anything
whole-
else that's not.
The whole pre-con process, if the first estimate comes in high, then you value engineer the heck out of it.
I heard that.
The FD renovations need to be further identified and developed by the design team. So that's just my way of saying, I just want to make sure we don't forget about the fire department. Last paragraph, to maintain a downtown presence, the PD would establish a low-cost 1 to 2 officer, part-time community policing bureau, or regular part-time office hours in the wheelwright room in the town offices or in the town hall as a base for citizen drop-ins and walking patrols. That's very specific too, but I'm happy. I can leave that in there. Police cruisers parked in front of the town offices or town hall would serve as a crime deterrent along with roving vehicles and walking patrols. Everybody okay with that one, or as is? Okay.
Yeah, I would take the references to the chiefs out.
Yeah, I did. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
great.
Just
That's
because
fine.
that was you and not the rest of us.
Yeah,
You're the one working the deals.
right. Just remember that one.
But when you're a private citizen and you're no longer attending these meetings, you can go advocate for that. And you could even attend the meetings
I
once.
was gonna say, you at least should be attending me in the audience.
Just
And you can
don't.
give
I'm sure you
All
will.
the oxygen, run the whole meeting. Option 2, hybrid. Build a new 18,000 square foot facility, let me add facility, on Continental Drive property for the PD. No FD substation will be built at this time. The cost allocated to the substation in option 1 is to be applied to renovations of the 20 Court Street Fire Department. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Peter, you're quiet.
Yeah.
You-
No, that's
All
fine.
right, all right. Option 3, and this one's
I mean,
pretty
it's not
much...
fine as far as I'm concerned with my handshake with the chief, but
All
it's
right.
fine to have
Well-
you guys go ahead and.
Tell him this is a marriage, and, the husband doesn't get to make all the rules.
He understands, but Dave's going to make a point of telling him that I fought hard for.
Yes.
Just watch the meeting. He'll know.
Yes, just watch the meeting. Hey, option 1 is still in there, so that your handshake deal is intact. The last one, the 32 Court Street option is unchanged. So the PD would relocate to a new building at 32 Court Street with parking workarounds and give the FD, the PD spaces at 20 Court Street under the same conditions as an option 1 hybrid. No downtown community policing bureau or office hours would be necessary. Recent voter approval of the acquisition of 10 Hampton Road for a new Parks and Rec department permits the town to examine seriously the advantages and disadvantages of keeping the PD downtown at this location. So, and then the rest of the letter is unchanged.
Can you just pull it down again?
Yeah, oops, sorry. It's not. Yeah, the first part's unchanged. So this is the areas here,
Yes.
there.
I second it.
No, I'm not good at motions.
Was it a motion?
So, I'm just
Accept
gonna
the letter
give
as
Peter a
revised.
minute
Yeah.
to do his edits.
No, I'm not going to provide, I just want to make sure that I understood.
The one thing I say on
Okay.
the comparisons here is that we talked about having kind of a statement about the conditions of success. And when I look at all these, there's really nothing that gives you the kind of the goal, right? The conditions for success for any one of these projects. So when I look at these, I think that all you're doing is really comparing a building location, size, but there's no qualitative statement about
Yeah.
what it does or what it doesn't do.
Yeah, I mean, Peter did get to that a little bit with like response time.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about Peter doing this. This is
Yeah.
something that ultimately our
Yeah.
consultants should be doing. This is what I do, is that you literally would have response time. It would be the higher hazard for the downtown area. These are bulleted items that basically are things that
what's
you
the benefit
use. What's the
besides
benefit of
just
doing
having a
these?
building?
I think it'd be something we could actually, it would be nice for them to come up with some bullets before they go to a presentation to the community with just some qualitative things about the options. I think it would be helpful for other people to see it.
In the same manner as the other.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Can you say that in 10 words or less, Rob? And I can add something.
Add these.
All options?
I think create a conditions for success, which is a standard of what people are using in the industry for the project. As a quality to, I guess, no, I think that's it. I don't think you have to really say much more.
For each option?
Well,
I think they should be general.
Independent, yeah, I was gonna say it can be independent.
They
of the
should be
project.
general,
This is what,
But you can rate each option
Yeah.
based on those,
Yeah.
on those conditions.
And that's kind of like, we did it for a lot of our projects. We would start with that, and it would be our true north. So knowing that every time we would make a decision, we'd go back to what our original goals were, and did they meet the original goals or didn't they meet the original goals? And if they didn't, you know at least why you diverted from those original goals.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's kind of like saying, I really would like to have.
Created conditions for success criteria for the project, so. All right, does anybody want to make a motion to accept sending this, accepting it as is and
So
sending
moved.
it to the town?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
So we have to take Amanda's name off.
Yes, we will. All right, I'm not going to send it right this second, I want to go over it one more time.
Can you keep her name on there and just say that she was absent or something like that?
Yeah,
She's part of the committee, but
I'll say it in French there, in absentia.
Yeah, but she,
Whatever it is.
well,
you say she can't because she didn't get a chance to vote on it?
we don't know, I'm just,
Yeah, I-
we don't know whether or not she would sign off on any of this stuff.
That's true.
So,
I got you.
so that's all, not to,
No, it's a fair point. I'll
Yeah.
take her name off. And not out of disrespect, but just,
No.
don't have her opinion.
Yeah.
and she'd be the first to agree with that, I think.
Probably.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Oh,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye. All right, formalities,
Oh, so we won't be meeting the first week of April. We'll meet, our next meeting will be third week of April.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.